Well, thank you for joining us for a Center for Enlightenment presentation brought to you by the Heart and Soul Foundation. I'm Entheogens, and this is an orientation on the secret societies who are running things right now. And if that seems hard to swallow, I want you to take my namesake, which is Entheogens, do the math yourself, and literally do the math. What do you think the statistical probability of having two president nominees, one Democratic and one Republican, both belonging to the secret organization which only produces 15 new members a year? So maybe there's 1,000 of these guys throughout the whole world called Skull and Bones. Well, both John Kerry and George W. Bush both admitted to belonging to the Order of Skull and Bones on national TV. So the statistical probability of having to choose a Skull and Bones member or a Skull and Bones member out of all the people in the United States, very, very statistically unlikely. What that represents is it means that we're basically being given who we're going to vote for, and we're going to vote for who these secret societies want us to vote for. We're going to vote for one of their puppets, which is what's happened to us. Now, back in the ancient times, there was a gentleman, I say ancient times, and I mean just a little bit ago. Really, it was about 1776, and just a few years after that, we had a gentleman named Albert Pike. It was actually the Revolutionary War, and he was a commander for the South. He also was the co-founder of the Ku Klux Klan, the White Brotherhood. One thing you'll notice about these secret societies, which I'm referring to, Trilateral Commission, Bilderbergs, CFR, the Innocent Society, Skull and Bones, the Illuminati, all of them are white-dominated brotherhoods, like the KKK. Anyway, back to our gentleman Albert Pike. Albert Pike was considered the supreme pontiff of the Masonic, another secret society organization. And Albert Pike was taught by his ascended master, or his spirit guide, which is, shamefully a demonic entity. And how do I know it was demonic? Because it basically told him and taught him that there would have to be 3 world wars before they actually could have their Christ ascend to the throne. That by that I mean the blood-stained Antichrist, who will come saying he brings peace, but in truth he comes to gobble and destroy. So, before we dive into the Illuminati and chapter 322, called Skull and Bones, or the Order of Death, I want to give you some basic familiarity with the concept of illumination. My teacher, which is Jesus, who I contact through the psilocybin mushroom at high doses, usually alone, has taught me that there are 2 forms of illumination, and when I think about it, I can't really argue with his reasoning. One form of illumination causes a growth of the conscience, the part of the self which is the searchlight of God. It helps you to understand what is right and what is wrong. It helps you to think of others before yourself. Another element that has grown through the illumination of God is kindness, empathy for others, compassion, thoughtfulness, love, understanding, wisdom, true wisdom. So we have that type of illumination, which is really more rare today, but it is there, and certainly psilocybin is an arrow pointing towards that heaven. In fact, if you took that key, because it was always shown sort of as a key, and Jesus himself refers to it as the key. He says to the Pharisees, a secret society 2,000 years ago, he said, you are cursed because you hide the keys, these medicines, from mankind, You yourselves will not go in, meaning going into the spiritual place that these produce, the illumination, by eating these medicines. And you block the door so that others who would go in cannot get in. So, that's Jesus there, speaking to the secret societies of his day and age. Alright, so if you took, say, that psilocybin and you passed it through the pearly gates, your teeth, into the kingdom within, it would unlock the doors of the kingdom of heaven. So literally you can think of the psychedelics as names of angels. When you eat that medicine, it calls the spirit over your body, and that spirit, just as it's said in scripture, the angels are to be ministers and servants of the people. So humanity was from the beginning designed to be served by these angels. They're supposed to help us. Unfortunately, a third of the angels fell, or you could say a third of the drugs are dark, the naturally occurring drugs, psychedelics. And because that is true, we humans have been unable to discern basic facts about drugs. We just say, well, drugs killed him. Well, he died of drugs. Well, what kind of drugs? Well, it was an overdose. We need to say, they died of heroin. They died of cocaine. They died of crack. They died of methamphetamine. They died of morphine overdose. We don't say it so that people can understand. They didn't die of psilocybin. They didn't die of marijuana. They didn't die of ayahuasca. They didn't die of peyote. They didn't die of San Pedro. They didn't die of salvia diviniorum. So this is the problem. We're not using discernment. We're lumping things together, and consequently we as a society, American culture, are suffering the war on drugs, which is lumpy gravy at best. Anyway, let's take a look at some of these symbols which represent different groups.